So good day guys, dito na naman tayo, University of St. Louis Tuguegarao, N22. Baka na-miss niyo pong pumasok. So guys, regarding your LMS, we have uploaded discussions regarding CVP and activity-based costing. But for now, I will discuss to you activity-based costing. But before we discuss activity-based costing, I want you to recall some terminologies discussed in your cost accounting. So guys, these are the terminologies. Familiar, right? So let's recall. First thing would be your cost accumulation. So cost accumulation, we are accumulating costs as it is incurred. So saan natin na-i-incur ang cost? Siyempre sa ating cost center or activity center. And related to our activity center are our activities. So sabi nga natin, sa cost accounting, we should classify activities whether it is value-added or non-value added. Why? Siyempre, regarding non-value added, we should mitigate costs regarding our non-value added activities. So guys, after cost accumulation, all accumulated costs ilalagay natin sa ating cost pool. So example of our cost pool would be our work in process and our factory overhead control or applied. So after our cost pool, all costs accumulated in our cost pool, we will give those to our cost object. How? Siyempre, through cost assignment. And let's recall guys that there are two types of cost assignment. We have cost tracing and cost allocation. So regarding our cost tracing, we are assigning costs or we are assigning direct costs to our cost object. And regarding cost allocation, we are assigning indirect costs to our cost object. And regarding cost allocation, we have two methods. Our traditional costing and especially the lesson for this day or for this time, ABC or the activity-based costing or what we call peanut butter costing. But baka tanungin nyo guys, kailan ba ginagawa ang cost allocation? Para saan ba ang traditional costing? Para saan ba ang activity-based costing? So guys, I have here a simple illustration kung kailan natin gagawin ang cost allocation or regarding how we will apply traditional costing at activity-based costing. So, yung na-discuss na lang sa ating cost accounting, job order costing. Sa first illustration guys, we will assume that there is only one job. So, balik po tayo sa entries regarding job order costing. Letter A, if we have incurred or we have processed direct materials. Entry would be work in process and direct material. Letter B, if we have incurred direct labor. Entry would be work in process, payroll. Siyempre guys, regarding the illustration, we will focus on our indirect costs or our overhead. So letter C, if we have applied overhead, the entry would be work in process, factory, overhead applied. Siyempre, let's assume the amount of 500,000. And letter D, if we have completed the job, entry would be finished goods, work in process, job. So ngayon guys, papansin ninyo, all factory overhead applied, pinunta lahat natin kay job kasi nga nag-iisa lang. Right? How about if we assume two jobs regarding a job order costing? So, let's proceed to our second illustration. For letter A, for job 1 and job 2, if we have incurred direct materials or we have processed direct materials, syempre, entry would be work in process direct materials. There would be no question with that. Letter B, if we have incurred direct labor, entry would be work in process payroll for job 1, job 2. Again, it is same in our first illustration. And again guys, sabi ko sa inyo, regarding this topic, we will focus on our overhead. What if we will assume a total factory overhead applied of 500,000? And we will apply and we will give that factory overhead applied to our job 1 and job 2 because we are assuming that there will be two jobs. Magkano kaya ang mapupuntang applied overhead kay job 1 or kay job 2? At dyan guys, papasok ang ating cost allocation. And we will use the method of either traditional costing or our ABC. So let's continue guys regarding our discussion on cost allocation. So guys, presented here in the board are your two methods. We have the traditional and ABC. So like what we did regarding process costing, we have taught you how to solve process costing problems, and we have provided you the steps on how to solve process costing problems. Same as to our discussion regarding cost allocation, I will provide to you the method how to allocate our overhead costs to our cost subjects. So let's start with our traditional or the volume-based costing. Nataguri ang traditional. Bakit? Or yung ating nakasanayan. So guys, hindi na bago sa inyo ang traditional or volume-based costing. So how will we allocate indirect costs using traditional or volume-based costing? So we have this formula. Familiar itong formula na to kasi nga na-discuss na to when we are discussing normal costing in your cost accounting. So we have your budgeted overhead divided by your direct labor hours. Siyempre, yung direct labor hours natin, estimated. And, dividing the two, we will get your predetermined overhead rate. And simply, the predetermined overhead rate is multiplied to our direct labor hours to get our factory overhead, which will be given either to our product or to our job, or simply our cost object. Simple as that. And that is traditional or volume-based costing. Let's proceed regarding ABC. So guys, regarding our factory overhead, we will distribute it to our activity centers. And in there, we will allocate the factory overhead using the cost driver. And lastly, we will multiply it to our number of activity. And that is the amount of factory overhead that will be given to our cost objects. And to illustrate this concept, let's take the problem given in your LMS. So regarding the problem, the problem is asking for the unit cost of our two products, your high school chair and your college chair. And provided in the problem guys is your overhead. Total overhead of 2.4 coming from our materials handling, our cutting and assembly activity centers. So these are the components. So guys, let's start computing using your traditional costing. So the problem is asking for our unit cost. Unit cost of our high school chair and our college chair. So let's go traditional costing. Sabi ko nga kanina, magkano ang budgeted overhead? So we have your 2.4. And how much is the direct labor hours? We have your 800. And now, we have computed the predetermined overhead rate of 300. So that will give us our predetermined overhead rate. And magkano kaya ang pupuntang factory overhead kay high school chair at kay college chair? Doon sa 2.4, magkano ang pupunta kay high school or kay college? So ngayon guys, after determining the predetermined overhead rate, we will just multiply it to our direct labor hours. So, we are now directly computing for our unit costs. So, let's start with high school chair. Provided in the problem that direct materials used in our high school chair is 600,000. For direct labor hours, HS chair consume 7,500 direct labor hours times the 20 direct labor cost per hour. So that will give you a total of direct labor amounting to 150,000. And for our overhead, sabi ko nga kanina, in computing the factory overhead that should be given to each S here, after determining the predetermined overhead rate of 300, we will just multiply it to our direct labor hours. So overhead that should be given to each S here, 7,500 hours, direct labor hours times the 300 predetermined overhead rate, that will give us 2,250,000. Now we will total the cost of our HS chair. 600,000 plus 150,000 plus 2,250. That will give us 3 million. Divided by the units produced for HS chair, which is 5,000. The unit cost per HS chair is 600. Next, let's proceed to college chair. So, given direct material use for college chair is 25,000. For direct labor hours given is the direct labor hours and the direct labor cost per hour, which is 20. Total direct labor is 10,000. And for our overhead, under traditional costing, simply our direct labor hours for college chair times the predetermined overhead rate of 300 equals 150,000. Again, we will total 25,000, 10,000, plus 150,000. That will give us a total of 185,000 divided by the units produced na college chair, which is 100, and that will give us a unit cost of 1,850 per chair, and that is for our traditional costing. So, how about the unit cost using ABC? So, here guys, presented and related to our concept. So, under ABC, and regarding our problem, we have a total of 2.4 na overhead. So, we will distribute it to our activity center regarding our materials handling, na 200,000, regarding cutting, na 2 million, and we have the assembly of 200,000. So, regarding our cost driver presented in your problem, for materials handling and cutting department, we have the parts, which amounted to 800,000. And per part, that will give you 0.25 and 2.5 per cutting. And regarding assembly, the cost driver is our direct labor hours amounting to 8,000. So 8,000 saan na-compute? Siyempre, direct labor hours for HS would be 7,500 and 500 for college chair. So the 200,000 amount divided by the 8,000 equals 25. So ngayon guys, how to compute the overhead that should be given to HS and to college. Balik tayo dito sa concept. We have computed the allocation. We will just simply multiply it to the number of activity. So let's start guys. For HS, again, the direct materials used, 600,000. Direct labor, 7,500 direct labor hours times 20. So that will give us 150,000. Sabi ko kanina, ang difference lang at ang focus regarding ABC and traditional is our overhead. So ngayon guys, regarding our number of activity for materials handling, we just multiply it to the 0.25 computed in this one. Next, sa cutting, ang number of activity regarding parts for HS is 100,000 also, times the 2.5. And last, ang number of activity or the number of direct labor hours regarding assembly is our 7,500 for HS, times the allocation rate of 25. So let's total 600,000, 150,000, 25,000, 250, and 187,500. That will give you a total of 1,212,500. Divided by 5,000, that will give you a unit cost of 242,500. And lastly, how much is the unit cost per college chair using ABC? So we are only to copy direct materials used, 25,000. Direct labor computed as the 500 direct labor hours times the 20 rate. That will give you 10,000. And for our overhead, for materials handling, the number of activity regarding parts, 3,500 times 0.25 allocation rate. That will give you 875. For cutting, the parts, the number of activity is 3,500 times 2.5 allocation rate, because 8,750. And lastly, for assembly, direct labor hours of 500 times the 25 allocation rate. That will give you 12,500. So let's total the cost for college share using ABC. So that will give you 57,125 divided by the 100 units produced for college share. That will give you unit cost of 571.25.